Hey yo, football fans, it's another great year. Fantasy football fiends, grab your beer. Giving you the best draft tips for all your picks. Starts and sits to the waiver wire fix. From my drafts galore to stats that's hardcore. Triple F does it all, have y'all screaming more. So sit back, relax, let the experts prevail. JT Magnum, Siggy Guns never fail. What's up, fantasy football fans? My name is JT Magnum. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Fiends. This is the Week 6 start 'em and sit 'em show. I'm here alone, solo again, doing it. But I want to just first of all let you guys in on something. I would like someone. I announced this on my live show last time, but I would like it if you're interested in writing, if you're interested in fantasy football or NFL blogs or NBA or Major League Baseball blogging or any kind of sports writing in general. I'm looking for people to write on my website. That would be magnumsportsnetwork.com. It's tough being one of only a few people to write on there and to be able to work a full-time job, and then that is pretty much my full-time job along with this, and it's a lot of work. But if you're interested in writing, please feel free to message me. My email address is jtmagnum@magnumsportsnetwork.com. And it's pretty easy, jtmagnum@magnumsportsnetwork.com. Feel free to message me and let me know that you're interested, and I will work on getting getting you situated with that if you're interested. All right, so moving on. We are doing the Fantasy Football Start 'em and Sit 'em show. I'm doing things a little bit different. I usually do a lot of effects, graphics, and photos, and all kinds of layouts and stuff like that. I've been doing it differently lately because I need to get the video up and running and out on this Tuesday night. I usually put it around Tuesday around midnight my time, 9 p.m. Pacific time, and that gets it out as early as I can. I don't get all the injuries and things like that right because sometimes, I put it out so early, but I do that for you guys to get you a head start on waiver wire pickups and things like that. And, because usually waiver wires on the Eastern Standard Time, it's by 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning. It depends like that, how that works. But it gets you a chance to pick up your waiver wire pickups and gives you a chance to get an early jump on some people on what's going on in the fantasy football world. So, and if you're not familiar with Fantasy Football Fiends, you're new. I don't talk about the big boys too much, the Julio Jones or the Aaron Rodgers. I don't tell you to start them because, it's an obvious you don't sit them. You don't. You always start your studs pretty much. I will tell you to sit studs every now and then. You don't have to follow my exact orders. It's just what I feel, I want to do during the course of the week, or what I would do depending on what players I have on the team. Like if you have a sorry receiver and you have Julio Jones with a bad matchup, you're still going to start Julio Jones. It's just how it is. But if you have Odell Beckham Jr. and Julio Jones, and you have all these studs, happens to have all these studs at wide receiver, but you can only start 2 of them, then maybe you got a conflict and you're trying to figure out which one you start over the 3. That's the kind of thing I'll help with and stuff like that when I say sit 'em. So that's what I mean by that. And stay tuned for the magnumsportsnetwork.com. Siggy posts his FanDuel lineups of the week now. That's a new thing that he's been doing. So stay tuned for that. And let's get this started. Let's get into the injury report. The Jamal Charles, the first main guy on the list, he's out for the year. We'll talk about replacement and things like that for him. Number 2, Martavis Bryant, who was injured already. He just came back, and I am ready to start him, and he injures himself in practice, so he's out. I'm not sure if he's going to be out until this game as well, but we'll see. I heard he tweaked his knee. Matt Jones is out. He might be out for a significant little amount of time, so now Alfred Morris is going to get the bulk of the carries again. Odell Beckham Jr. had a hamstring pull in that Sunday night game against the 49ers. Him and Ruben Randall actually are both hurt. I'm not sure if they're going to play. They're trying to get them ready to play, but you better monitor him if you have him, because that's a really big loss. And, of course, Julio Jones, not knowing if he's going to play. They're supposed to play Thursday Night Football against the Saints, and I'm not sure he's going to play. He might not even play. He didn't look himself out there that last game, and I have a feeling he might not play. He might be a scratch, especially since they're playing the Saints, and the Saints aren't that good this year. So let's get into the rewind portion. This is where I talk about my last week's picks and how I did, whether it be good or bad. And we'll start with the good, of course. And my best start of the week was Eli Manning, of course, playing my team, the 49ers. Eli Manning scored 28.74 points according to NFL.com. These are always NFL.com standard stats, standard scoring, so I don't count PPR, things like that. My worst start of the of last week, the worst start was Jason Witten. He scored 1.30 points. Honorable mention for the good starts, Justin Forsett with 23 points, Andre Johnson with 19.70, Gary Barnidge with 19.90, and the Packers defense with 21. For the sits last week, my best sit was Charles Clay, 0.70 points. That's all he got. He got under a point. And the bad sit of the week was Andy Dalton shredding the Seahawks Legion of Boom defense for 27.04 points. Honorable mention for sits, Amari Cooper only had 4.9 points. Calvin Johnson, 6.70. See what I'm saying? Sit your studs. Sit your studs sometimes, I'm telling you. Jimmy Graham, 3.0 points. And the Lions defense with -2 points. Those were my honorable mentions for sits. Those are the good ones I said to do last week. All right, let's get into Adam and bag 'em. This is where I tell you a couple people, and I tell you whether you should add them or you should bag them. And the first one is Jalen Strong. Had a couple touchdowns last week, including a Hail Mary catch. And this guy's getting more and more and more and more playing time. And at this point, I'm going to have to tell you to add him. I think he's going to get more playing time opposite of DeAndre Hopkins. And I just see him, I don't know, he's an up-and-coming rookie. He's a guy that can catch the ball. He catches balls in traffic, and he's just starting to catch on, and you can see they're getting more and more confident with him, and I just think he's a good add. So if you have a wide receiver that's hurt, if you have somebody that you want to get rid of, you're not sure of, just not doing well, a guy that's supposed to do well that's not doing well, and you need somebody that, you know, some kind of sleeper pick to pick up, that's a guy for you right there, Jalen Strong, because he's going to pick it up as we get towards the middle of the season and the end of the year, because he's starting to learn the playbook very well. The second one's another rookie, Jamison Crowder from the Redskins. Sorry. He's another guy who's getting a lot more opportunity that Deshaun Jackson's been gone. But I'm going to have to say bag him for now because Deshaun Jackson's going to come back. And when he comes back, doesn't leave much room for Jamison Crowder there. So unless he goes into the slot. And I don't see, you know, him getting too many touches along with Deshaun Jackson when he comes back. So for now, I would say bag him. Let's get into the waiver wire pickups of the week now. My 3 waiver wire picks are Blake Bortles, Charcandrick West, and Dwayne Harris, and I'll talk about Charcandrick West. Here's a guy playing for the Chiefs. Everybody right now is going to pick up Knile Davis. I'm not sure how many people know. I'm sure there's other people, analysts out there that are talking about this. Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't keep an eye on them and what they talk about. But Charcandrick West is a guy that Kansas City seems to really like. And he's a big back. He's a fast back. And he's another guy that can play that Jamal Charles role. Knile Davis is more of a slasher type, you know, speed back. You know, he's speed and power a little bit, but Charcandrick can do probably a lot more things than Knile Davis can, which gives him more opportunity to play. And I like what they got going in him. So I would pick him up, stash him if you can, because I think he's going to be the one, not Knile Davis, that gets the most and the bulk of the carries for the Chiefs moving forward. Now that obviously Jamal Charles is out for the year. Dwayne Harris on that waiver wire is also another good pickup, especially if Odell Beckham and Ruben Randle are gone. He's going to get a lot of targets. Starts. Let's get into the stardom portion of the show. My 3 quarterback starts of the week are Brian Hoyer, Jay Cutler, and Joe Flacco. And I'll talk about Brian Hoyer. Came in and just executed for Houston in last week's game. Came in for Ryan Mallett. Ryan Mallett went out. He went out with basically an injury for a minute there for a second and never can get back in because Brian Hoyer was doing so well they didn't pull him. And now it looks like Brian Hoyer is going to be the starter after that quality game last week. So I like him against Jacksonville. You can pretty much move the ball pretty well against Jacksonville. So I like to see Brian Hoyer do that, and I think he's gonna benefit from that. Let's go to the running backs. The running back starts of the week are Ronnie Hillman at Cleveland. You know what I say every time about Cleveland Browns, every time somebody plays them. Deion Lewis at Indianapolis, Frank Gore versus New England. And I'm going to talk about Deion Lewis. Here's a guy that, they have LeGarrette Blount, but they love those pass catching, all-purpose backs in New England. Brady loves them, and you can see he is leaps and bounds good when it comes to pass catching. He can run out of the backfield. He's very shifty. He's even shifty when he catches the ball. If you saw that touchdown last week against the Cowboys where he made everybody miss and just plops into the end zone, just looks at the camera as if like, yeah, I meant to do that. But it was just he's a thing of beauty, and he's going to score a lot of points, especially if you're in a PPR. My goodness, he's going to score a lot of points. So Deion Lewis is definitely a must start against Indianapolis, and they don't really have that great of a defense. And they're missing a lot of secondary. Let's talk about the wide receiver starts of the week. The three are, believe it or not, Torrey Smith versus his former team, the Ravens. Allen Robinson going against the Houston Texans. And Brandon Cooks versus Atlanta. And I talk about Torrey Smith. The reason why I'm talking about him is because the 49ers looked good moving the ball last week against the Giants, but Torrey Smith is facing his former team. They have no cornerbacks. They've been giving up a lot of yards. Josh McCown passed all over them last week. I look for Colin Kaepernick to get things going, and they don't have anybody that can really defend Torrey Smith on the perimeter. And I think Anquan Bolden was the guy who went off last week for the 49ers. I think this week it belongs to Torrey Smith. They're going to game plan for him to use his speed this week. I think he goes off this week against his former team. And there's always that game, those games against teammates versus former teammates. They always seem to go off on each other. And I like Torrey Smith this week going against the Ravens. Tight ends. Tight end starts of the week, Max Williams and Tyler Eifert and Greg Olsen. We'll talk about Greg Olsen playing the Seahawks. The Seahawks, they've given up a lot of points to fantasy-wise to tight ends this year, but it's kind of like, I think it's kind of like more overrated than what it is, but Tyler Eifert exposed. I thought Tyler Eifert was not going to do well against the Seahawks last week, and he threw me for a loop. He caught a couple touchdowns, burned him downfield, had a nice catch at the end to set up the winning field goal against them in overtime, or to set the tying field goal to go to overtime, and then they won. But Tyler Eifert played a great game against them, and they're right now, they just can't stop. They don't have the perimeter. They don't have the inside defensive back now to cover those tight ends. And it just seems like Cam Chancellor, for some reason, couldn't cover him down the field. So here comes Greg Olsen, and he's pretty much the main target for them. And I think he's going to have a good day against Cam Chancellor and those Seahawks. Defenses, starts of the week, the Ravens playing the 49ers. Titans versus Miami, and Jets versus the Redskins. And I'll talk about the Jets. They're playing great football, and the Redskins are a turnover-prone team. Kirk Cousins even threw an interception for a touchdown last week. When you thought that they played a pretty good game almost the whole way through, there he is. He makes a mistake and throws a touchdown. So look for the Jets to capitalize on turnovers. They are one of the top teams in the league at causing turnovers as well. So let's get into the sit-em portion of the show. Let's talk about the first three, the quarterback sits of the week, and that's Ryan Tannehill, Cam Newton, and Russell Wilson. And I'll talk about Russell Wilson. No offensive line. This guy is running for his life, and Carolina gets Luke Kuechly back this week at middle linebacker. They're going to be more than stout against the run, so Russell Wilson's going to need a lot of help. And he always particularly struggles against Carolina. There's always low-scoring games when these two teams play each other. And I figure, Russell Wilson to have a pretty okay game, but not great fantasy-wise, meaning like he's not going to get a lot of rushing yards, not going to get a lot of passing yards. That offensive line can't protect him, and he's going to be running for his life as much as he has been. So we'll see what they do to limit that, but I don't think he's going to get a lot of points fantasy-wise this week against that Carolina defense. Running backs sits of the week, Jeremy Hill, Alfred Morris, and Thomas Rawls. Thomas Rawls had a great game last week, but I don't see him doing that against Carolina. But let's talk about Jeremy Hill. Here's a guy that has disappointed me fantasy-wise this year. I thought he was going to be one of the top running backs this year in the league. And, I mean, there's been a lot of fantasy disappointments here and there, Peyton Manning and things like that. Although I did call Peyton Manning and said he was not going to be a top top 10 quarterback this year. I did say that, and right now he's ranked low. But anyways, Jeremy Hill against that Buffalo Bills defense, I don't see anybody running on that Buffalo Bills defense. They allow a lot of pass yards. The reason why they allow a lot of pass yards is because they don't give up anything on the ground. They're really good on the ground, and Jeremy Hill is just not doing it. I think Giovanni Bernard gets the bulk of more of the carries in this one because he's a little bit more speed back and he can catch out of the backfield. So I see him as being the guy that they look to attack the Bills with on defense. And Jeremy Hill might not get as much touches as he used to in the past, unless there's a lot of goal line carries. But I don't see him doing that. So sit him this week if you have him. Wide receiver sits of the week: Jeremy Maclin, Antonio Brown, and Jarvis Landry. And I'll talk about Antonio Brown. Here's a guy he's playing with Michael Vick. He's not getting the targets. And it's just not the same. He doesn't have that rhythm of Michael Vick. You can see it. He's a little bit frustrated. He's not getting catches. Michael Vick is throwing to other people. He threw to Darius Hayward-Bay a bunch in that Monday night win over the Chargers. He's not, and then on top of that, he's not even throwing as much, obviously, as Ben Roethlisberger will. So he hasn't really found that chemistry yet with Michael Vick, and going against the Cardinals with Patrick Peterson all over him, Tyrann Mathieu shadowing him, spying him, I just don't see Antonio Brown having that, those 100-something yards, those 10-catch, 100-something yard games. He's not going to have that right now. And so, and Arizona's been shutting down wide receivers in the passing game pretty much all year. I would say right now, sit Antonio Brown. I know he's your stud, but like I said, you got to find another guy that has a better matchup this week and try to start him, because he's just going to cost you points just sitting there. And I don't think he's going to score a lot of points with Michael Vick playing against that tough Arizona Cardinals defense. Tight ends sits of the week: Gary Barnidge, although he's had a couple great weeks, Heath Miller, and Jordan Cameron. And I will talk about Gary Barnidge. He's had a great couple weeks, even a crazy, incredible in between the leg toe catch that he brought up, and the guy swiped at it, just missed perfectly against the Ravens, set up and got a touchdown on that play. But he's playing the Denver defense, and the Denver defense has shut down tight ends pretty much all year. They shut down pretty much passing game all year long, period. I don't see him getting anything with Josh McCown. That defense is hungry, and they did lose DeMarcus Ware. I'm not sure for how long, but it doesn't matter. They still have a great pass rush. They still have Von Miller. They still have that secondary with Harris and Aqib Talib. They're just too good back there. So if you have somebody for Barnidge, I would tell you right now, bench him. Defenses sits of the week: I had the Packers, the Steelers, and the Chargers. The Packers is a tough one because they're playing San Diego, but San Diego's offense, you never know. They're just, they're iffy, but I don't trust it with Phillip Rivers. I don't think the Packers are going to shut them down. But I just see Rivers to Gates. I see Rivers to Allen. And I don't see the Packers being able to stop. I think it's going to be pretty much a shootout with Aaron Rodgers and Phillip Rivers in this game. I don't think both defenses can just stop each other for the majority of the game. So last week was a good start for the Packers, but this week is not a good matchup. So let's get into the sleepers now. My three sleepers of the week are Teddy Bridgewater versus Kansas City, Antonio Andrews versus Miami, who's been not suspect. They're horrible against the run. They're the worst in the NFL against the run. They just fired their head coach. They fired their defensive coordinator. It's just been downhill for them. And Antonio Andrews is probably going to go off on them this week. Roddy White at New Orleans. And I'll talk about Roddy White. The reason why I put Roddy White in here as a sleeper, he hasn't done anything all year. Anything. Leonard Hankerson is banged up. Julio Jones is banged up. Both of them might not even play. Even if Leonard Hankerson plays, he's not 100%. If Julio Jones plays, he's definitely not 100%. Look for Roddy White to regain his Pro Bowl form in this game, especially against the Saints, who have no secondary other than one dude in Delvin Breaux. And if Julio Jones is in the game, he's probably going to be covering him. Look for Roddy White to go off in this game. I think Roddy White's going to have one of his spectacular old school Pro Bowl games in this one. And Matt Ryan and them are not going to stop passing the ball. They're not going to stop running it with Devontae Freeman. So that's just how it is. And by the way, start Devontae Freeman every week you can right now. That dude is on fire. I wouldn't even say sit him against the Broncos. Just start him. I thought he was not going to do well last week because the Redskins, who were playing well against the run, and he showed me up again. That dude is just phenomenal. So anyways, Thanks, guys, for watching. Leave your comments in the comment section. Don't forget to ask me all your questions in there. Don't forget to follow me at JT_, it's down there, JT_Magnum 816 on Twitter, and at SiggyV on Twitter if you want to tweet at him for your questions. And don't forget to stay tuned. The starts and sits should be up on the website this week, hopefully, if I can try to get to them as fast as I can. The rankings hopefully will be up by tomorrow. That'd be Wednesday. Hopefully I can get them up by tomorrow. I'm going to try my best to get those rankings up. It's been a struggle. Like I said, I have a full-time job. I have a family. And then I have this. This is another almost like a full-time job trying to do videos. So it's so much fun. But at the same time, I got to spend time with my family. You know how it is. Family first. Family first. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Best of luck to you in your Week 6 fantasy football games. And score a lot of points. Win some money on FanDuel. Win some money on DraftKings. I'm not on DraftKings, but win some money. I'll try to help you the best I can with lineups for FanDuel. I'm not going to do a plug-in for FanDuel on this yet. I'm thinking about doing a video for that. But like I said, it's a lot of work doing these videos. So stay tuned, all right? So for JT Magnum and Fantasy Football Fiends, I'm out. Peace, y'all.